As fire chiefs, we are all leaders in our departments and in our communities back at home. But there are those who, over the course of their career, contribute to the fire and emergency service far beyond just their job description. With the strong support of Pierce Manufacturing, 2 extraordinary chiefs have been selected by the IAFC to be honored this morning as Fire Chief of the Year in both the volunteer and career categories. To assist me in presenting the 2018 Fire Chief of the Year awards, please welcome the President of Pierce Manufacturing, a friend, Mr. Jim Johnson.
Thank you very much for the kind words, Chief Jenkins, and thank you for your year leading the IAFC in your year of service. And on behalf of Pierce Manufacturing and our parent company, Oshkosh Corporation, we are honored once again to participate in recognizing the Fire Chiefs of the Year. And as a corporation looking into the fire service, we continue to be impressed and amazed by the leadership attributes that you all exhibit, by the investments you make not only in your own leadership development, but in developing that next generation of leaders that's coming after you. And year in and year out, I've noticed that as we recognize these Fire Chiefs of the Year, and I also know the same attribute in many of you, you all truly, truly care about your people. You don't just pay lip service to it, but you care about your firefighters. You care about their careers and their families and their well-being. And it reminds me, a number of years ago, a few members of our leadership team at Pierce, we went to the Disney Institute to try to better understand how Walt Disney World and Disneyland, how do they create that magic? How do they create that motivation in their cast members to create that magic for their guests, as they call them? And we learned a lot through that Disney Institute session, but the number one thread across all of it was Disney truly cares about its people, much the way you do as well, and the way you inspire the next generation of leaders that are following all of you. So as a corporation just looking into the fire service, we at Pierce and Oshkosh can learn a lot from all of you. Okay, so let's get started. We will first recognize the Volunteer Chief of the Year. Over the last 25 years, Chief Herbert Leusch of the Glen Echo Fire Department in Bethesda, Maryland, has exhibited the highest standard for volunteer fire rescue. His achievements led him up the ranks from firefighter to deputy chief to his current position as fire chief, which he took on nearly a decade ago. Chief Leusch is responsible for all aspects of a combination department of 70 personnel responding to over 2,200 calls per year. He's been an inspirational role model for others. Some of his most notable accomplishments include establishing a bicycle emergency response team, developing a heavy apparatus driver training program, building advanced life support capabilities, and co-leading a firefighting task force in New Orleans following Hurricane Katrina. His exceptional leadership is evident in the recognition he's received, including a high-level citation for dedication and heroic service in Maryland from Congressman Chris Van Hollen, an official citation from the Maryland General Assembly for distinguished service, and multiple top responder awards. Chief Leusch has earned these achievements while excelling in his day job as a senior principal at General Dynamics Information Systems. While juggling both his fire and professional careers, Chief Leusch has made his family and continuing education top priorities. He is wholeheartedly committed to being a devoted husband and father. He genuinely epitomizes what it means to be a great volunteer fire chief, and Chief Leusch is a clear representation of the highest ideals demonstrated by the Fire Chief of the Year. Please join me in recognizing this year's Volunteer Chief of the Year, Chief Herbert Leusch. Now we will recognize the Career Fire Chief of the Year. Chief Joanne Hayes-White began her career with the San Francisco Fire Department 28 years ago, a journey that would take her up the ranks from firefighter to assistant deputy chief. And in 2004, Chief Hayes-White was sworn in as chief of the San Francisco Fire Department, the largest urban fire department in the world with a female chief. A collaborative and team-oriented leader, Chief Hayes-White takes pride in knowing the names of most of the department's 1,700 members. She's instituted many vital changes in the department, including the implementation of a random on-duty alcohol and drug testing policy and the restoration of promotional exams, all of which have increased accountability and led to greater operational efficiency. Chief Hayes-White worked diligently to improve diversity and inclusion in the department. Under her leadership, women personnel increased from 5 to 15%, and the percentage of male minorities increased from 10% to 42%. Chief Hayes-White also focused on outreach to the community with programs including a neighborhood emergency response team, the San Francisco Firefighters and Safety Education, and a partnership with the San Francisco Unified School District and the American Heart Association to incorporate CPR training into the 9th grade curriculum. An active member of IAFC, Chief Hayes-White also served with the Terrorism and Homeland Security Committee, the National Advisory Council to FEMA, the Presidential Public Safety Officers Medal of Valor Board, and the American Red Cross. But what speaks most to why Chief Hayes-White embodies a true Fire Chief of the Year is the way her team describes her as decisive, energetic, collaborative, servant leader, innovator, courageous, and most importantly, down to earth. Please join me in recognizing this year's Career Fire Chief of the Year, Chief Joanne Hayes-White.